Hi, it's Ileana here, and I would like to discuss the various orbiter platforms and space stations that are located around Mars. When I was in the ICC doing my 60 and back, I remember being taken to one of the Mars Orbiter Defense Platform stations, and they have four of these around Mars and they're cloaked. So the orbiter station is basically, it has two different ring habitats and also a huge antenna extending outwards from the platform station. And basically what it is, it's a defense station, so it has weapons capabilities, but it's mainly used for information gathering and communications back and forth. They sift through all of the incoming and outgoing communications around Mars. That's what the primary usage of these platforms is for. There's livable habitats on the stations. So there are crew members living there and manning these space stations, and they are cloaked. And what they can do is these space station platforms have engines, so they can move them around and put them in orbit around planets. Now, these four ones are around Mars. They scramble communications. They also get information coming in through communique, and it's put into the databases. It monitors where personnel are stationed, ICC personnel, scientists exactly, on different stations, on different planets, what they're working on. So there's personnel profiles in their databases on those platforms. And if need be, they can also defend planets and stuff because they do have weapons on them. And these four are ICC ones. As well, before ICC on Mars, which is Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, they have the most, their primary bases on Mars, and these four platforms. Before that, the concept of circular platforms and space stations these concepts were designed by Werner von Braun, who's a German scientist who was transferred to, if people know about Paperclip, he was transferred to the US. And he worked on various space station concepts, platforms, rocketry, weaponry. And some of his ideas were actually used in other scientists that were part of these projects. So the earlier space programs, like the Military Industrial Complex, MIC SSP Secret Space Program, they implemented circular and round station platforms, and it was made out of space junk, reusable rockets, reusable stuff that they had in space and put out in space. And I actually, when I decided to do some research on the earlier MIC SSP programs, I actually found some pretty interesting pictures online of what those things look like and how they were being built and serviced with the rockets and stuff. So there's that correlation, and I have an image of the ICC modern space platform station. There's two of them, and it looks very similar to what I remember, and it's stationed around Mars, surprisingly. So my opinion is, if it's out there on the internet and there's images of it and you have memories of something, most likely it's connected. And what I do is, from what I remember, I apply the imagery. If I find something that looks very similar to what I remember, I will include it in my talks because I'm a very visual person. And when I worked on the ICC, in the data centers that they have, and they have a lot of data centers that's included on these space platforms, stations, and also on the Mars bases, they have information centers. So where they collate all the data, put it into databases, encrypt, decrypt, whatever needs to be decrypted in terms of information. I was doing information collation and data gathering on mission protocols, on contact protocols, personnel profiles, mission plans, all that kind of stuff. So I was working in their data centers. What I call them is information or data centers. And some of my memories of that include wearing a white suit, body hugging suit, white, gray, or blue, sometimes silver as well. And basically collating data. And it was a sort of white, grayish environment. And I remember seeing biowalls with plants in the displays, and these biowalls were enclosed in glass fixtures. There were trees, there was grass. Somehow they were able to suspend these plants and biowalls in the data centers to make it more comfortable for the workers or the assets. Because keeping in mind, when you're on Mars, I was mostly indoors when I was on the bases, so humans do need some kind of interaction with living things and to make you feel comfortable. Even if you're working in a data center, looking at that living biowall, even though it was glass enclosed, to make sure it actually grew properly and to make sure it was getting the water and the moisture it needed for the trees to survive. That was why it was enclosed in glass, because it needed a certain temperature and aspect for it to stay living, the plants. Looking at that cheered me up. It made me feel like I was human, and that even that little bit of comfort looking at living things and plants, that I had something to look forward to while I was on those bases. It wasn't all doom and gloom. Some comfort was provided with these living things in the data centers, and there was a few biowalls. And strangely enough, in my current life, where I used to work, they had a huge biowall. Of course, it wasn't encased in glass, but it was a biowall of different plants hanging on a concrete wall. So there's some correlation between the jobs, the ICC, and where I worked in public services in a public place. Biowalls seem to be a factor, and also where I live, in the local library that I go to, it has a huge living biowall outside on the library wall. So biowalls seem to be a commonality even in my current lifetime. It needs a lot of maintenance and care, water and certain temperature to make it functional and to build the biowall properly so the plants are healthy and living. That's something I learned. If you don't do it properly, the plants wither and die, which you don't want. And somehow on Mars, they were able to have good maintenance for the trees and the plants and the glass encased biowall habitat. It was encased in glass, or a glass-like structure substance. Maybe it wasn't completely glass. But it was quite interesting, and I got to see living things growing in these data centers and these biowall enclosures, just to make it more humane and livable, I guess, so people aren't depressed, because Mars has a thin atmosphere, and if you go outside, there's not much to see. There is some shrubbery, there is plants, definitely, and there's a thin breathable atmosphere. You still need to wear a pressurized environmental suit, just in case, because there are sandstorms out there still, electrical storms sometimes. There are animals, large animals, huge spiders, mantids, rats, and other colonists on Mars. So I wasn't out there on the surface much. I was mostly mainly indoors doing data collation, working in their information centers, encrypting, decrypting information, working with computer systems. I was monitoring data most of the time. That's what I was doing. And I was moved around on various bases and projects throughout the 60 and back in the quantum time leap time travel program that I was in. And it was mostly ICC. It was mostly Mars, those Mars orbiter defense platforms, space stations. I was also put on the moon, and I was moved around on ships and planets and space stations, basically, or defense platforms. So they had me doing various jobs, like you worked on something for 10 years, then you're moved around to something else. I also did a lot of language translation and participated in different meetings with different confederations of ETs, humanoid ones mostly, because I felt mostly comfortable with humanoid looking ETs. Although I have seen during my ET contact experiences, I've seen ETs that aren't humanoid at all. So I'm familiar with that. And basically, the ICC put me in a lot of different Mars bases and some on the moon as well. An interplanetary corporate conglomerate, it has a lot of advanced technology. And their assets are moved around. I don't like to call myself a whistleblower or an SSP insider. What I know that happened to me is I was taken and I was an asset to them. I was needed, the abilities that I have, because I have remote viewing abilities as well and that's great for data collation. In these programs, they like remote viewers. If you're good, they'll use you in a program. That's how it works. And the ICC, what they do is they break down people with trauma and pain, and they build you back up. They break you and build you back up, and they put you in different missions and jobs that you're suited for according to your psionic abilities, your profile, they'll find a place to put you in that you're the kind of abilities you're suited for certain types of jobs. Mine was intelligence and information gathering. I'm very good at collating data together. What I mean by intelligence, it's not always like military stuff. It's gathering data, being able to find pertinent data and put it all together to see the bigger picture. That's intelligence as well, in data gathering. And almost like being an analyst, data gathering analyst, and putting it all together, compiling data for databases, you name it. Information flows easily in these databases in the ICC. They have a lot of different informational databases and even informational vaults that they have access to. Advanced technology, healing technology, age regression, prolonging age as well, so making people younger, changing your appearance to look like ETs, and back giving you different serums to make you look younger or older. You name it, they have it. They have a huge slave trade, slave labor. That's huge with them. If they want something, they'll trade for it. Whether that be humans or technology or anything else. If they want it, they could trade for it with other ET species and easily get it. Because the ICC creates advanced technology. It has for a long time. And the experience with the Tabby star that's been talked about for a year and a half. Ring worlds, Dyson spheres, and energy collectors. The ICC has that, and it's done that already, and Tabby Star has collected energy through their Dyson sphere type machine that they have near Tabby star that's collecting energy. It's basically an energy solar collector and it collects energy. They've done that. That's theirs. And that's actually showcased in the Halo game, video game, what ring worlds are and Dyson spheres. Halo is actually a project of the ICC. That's one of the disclosure projects that was featured in Halo. It's an ICC thing that technology they have with solar collectors to collect solar energy from stars and to use it to build different planetoids, build out planetoids and ships, and also to build out ring worlds around planets in the platform stations that they build, and also for spaceships. Solar energy is solar energy. It's needed. It could be used for a lot of different things. So the ICC is quite advanced in their tech, and they are capable of building ring worlds. They're capable of building solar energy platforms, which are called Dyson spheres in some circles, and collecting energy, solar energy from stars, and harnessing that energy to build things. They already have that capability. They've had it for almost 60 years now. So they're doing that work out there near Tabby star with the solar energy collection. From what I know, it's not alien technology. It's interplanetary corporate conglomerate technology that they're using. So they've gone out beyond our solar system and they've gone out to other star systems. So they do have that capability and they've had it for a while now. Don't underestimate these programs because they have the tech to do it and they've done it. They have the platforms, the defense stations, they have the cloaking technology to make sure telescopes don't see it out in space. This stuff is cloaked. So just in case there's, if something shows up, it won't show up. There won't be any damage control to do or to create any spin stories because it's all cloaked. Even the lower orbiting MIC SSP stations have cloaking abilities, or they could just be moved from Earth orbit somewhat so they're not seen with telescopes that are out near Earth orbit as well. So, there's spy telescopes as well that are cloaked. That stuff's out there. It's Star Wars, Space Wars, all that tech, it's out there. It's floating there in Earth orbit, around Mars and other planets. They have jump Stargate technology that's out there. The Ganymede trading portal, the Jupiter space station, where they do trading negotiations and other negotiations, that's out there. That's already been done. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and technology has made it possible for these SSP secret space programs to be out there and for assets to be used for missions and putting people in their data centers, information centers, scientists. It's all done. Thank you, and namaste.